prosperity. Welcome to Truth Fiend TV. I'm your host, J2, and today you're watching Masonic State of America. Now, I've been really wanting to get this one put out. It took a little time to kind of get everything put together in a way that can help people understand a little bit about what's going on and how this system, right, that we living in this country was actually set up, how it was established, and who actually established it. These people have set a lot in place that's affecting everybody, even to this day. So some of you know some of this information, especially if you kind of already into the research. So it'll be some of this thing, some of this will be familiar to you, but then also understand that some people who are clueless to it and being exposed to it for the first time. So I want to make sure that I can kind of blend both worlds, so to speak, so that y'all can kind of understand and we can kind of meet in a common place with it, right? So this is primarily going to be about America. I'm going to have to dip back a little bit, predating America a few times, but I'm not going to do a whole lot of what we call ancient world history on this particular broadcast. I just want to really focus on America and the establishment of it, how everything was set up, and who these people are. Let's just get it started. We've heard a lot about the founding fathers, growing up, coming up in school and everything. They tell you about founding fathers, this and that. What we got to understand is that the founding fathers are coming from Europe. All right, they're coming from Europe, and at the time they was under King George III. All right, now King George III, he ruled from 1760 to 1820, and during this time is when they was basically getting the colony set up and trying to expand. Now King George was a Protestant, so that is something that's going to be key down the line. You're going to have to understand what does that actually mean. When you're talking about Protestants, you're basically talking about being protesting the Pope, or against the Catholic Church, right? It's going to be difficult to separate the Bible specifically and religion from these secret societies, because this is what they're really about, especially in the esoteric and in the occult aspects of them. But I'm not gonna go super deep into the Bible on this, but we're gonna definitely touch on some things that you may not know. Now, as it comes to Freemasons, one thing you need to understand is that they were a threat, and they'll always be a threat to a monarchy, right? When you're talking about kings and queen rulership. When you got a monarchy, these people are rulers of a nation strictly because of who they are, their bloodline, right? So that they feel as though their bloodline goes back to something or someone or some being, usually. That gives them a right to rule. Now, this right to rule is known as manifest destiny. Okay, it's a divine right to rule. You could say, so to speak, God put them in a position that they will be able to rule. Well, when you're dealing with a secret group, a secret society, they're not built around one person. So they're usually going to be built around an idea. They're going to be built around an ideology, a philosophy, right? And that becomes inherently more dangerous, because now you don't have one leader or one thing that to necessarily fight. You don't have one enemy to get rid of. You're going to have to get rid of an idea. How do you kill an idea, right? So this becomes a problem for kings and queens and the like. So they ended up, supposedly, you're going to hear a lot of different dates when it comes to this, and that's why I wanted to touch on some of this stuff. But, one of the official statements would be that Freemason was found out about around 1717, and it was banned, right, in England. Like I said, it's an idea. So it's not something that you're going to really be able to get rid of in that sense. Only thing you might could do is get them to change the name or change a little bit about how they operate. So what you have to understand is that if they also believe in manifest destiny, what are they going to need? Well, they're going to need a country. They're going to need a country in which that they can build, because as they try to function in different nations, you'll find out throughout time that when they're found out about, they're disbanded or they're barred or they are somehow hindered or hampered before they can really do what they're trying to do. So they needed a nation, right? And there was no better opportunity than the new nation that was being built with the expansion of these European nations over here in America. Now, you could say some of the early, what you want to call them, founding fathers, a lot of them were Freemasons. It's said that it was somewhere between 8 and 32 of them was Mason, but we know for a fact George Washington was one. Now, what is the significance of the founding fathers getting themselves in a position? Well, we're talking about a time before the internet, before cell phones, anything like that. So people physically had to go from one nation to the next. So if you sending these people over here to establish the colonies for you and to get everything up and running, you really can't watch them. This is the perfect opportunity for this particular group to establish itself. Now remember, supposedly they was found out about banned somewhere early 1700s. But we know that around 1775, 1776, there was a group founded named the Illuminati. So the Illuminati was founded by a guy by the name of Professor Adam Weishaupt, okay? And this was in Ingolstadt, Germany. So when we say these names, it's not important to really get too wrapped up in it and get too caught up in it. And that's the game that they'll play with you in the media. Well, we can only go by what we know. And the way the story goes is that somebody was transporting documents, right, related to them. And that person was either, I want to say either died or something, or they had some kind of run-in with, authority, ended up getting their hands on his material. And in his material is where he started to see the blueprint and the outline of the organization and what they were actually about. It showed a lot about how they were, anti-church, even though a lot of them were members of the church that was a part of it. But we'll get into that. But one thing about Weishaupt is that where he was raised and where he was from was he was born under the Holy Roman Empire, right? As a matter of fact, you could take a look at the imperial banner of the Holy Roman Empire, and for those of you who know and do this sort of research, that automatically should put a little light bulb on your head when you see that. You're like, wait a minute, that kind of looks like something else. Well, this is what you got to think about. So when we think of the Holy Roman Empire, we think of Catholicism, right? The Catholic Church. Whereas we know this organization, as well as when you dip into Freemasonry, a lot of it seemingly is opposed to Catholicism, if not Christianity outright. That's for a reason. Remember, there's a lot of deception and there's a lot of secrecy. I mean, that's the point of it being a secret organization. Now, as we dip deep into the symbolism, remember, this is the Illuminati. When you look at the imperial banner for the Holy Roman Empire, and then you take a look at their coat of arms, which is very similar to the imperial banner, outside of the fact that they put the crown on it, right? They got the crown on the coat of arms. When you look at those two together and you compare them with Freemasonry, take a look at the logo, if you will, the emblem, the symbol for 32nd degree Freemasonry. That's it right here. It looks eerily similar to the imperial banner of the Holy Roman Empire. But remember, Freemasonry is not supposed to be a part of Catholicism, and neither was the Illuminati. And you can take it a step further, a degree higher, the 33rd degree of Freemasonry, as you can see, eerily similar to the coat of arms of the Holy Roman Empire. As you can see, they just put the crown on it. So now we're starting to see a big part of this is symbolism. Now the picture starts to become a little bit clearer. And like I said, it was very much anti-Christian, and there was members of the clergy that was a part of it. This is where the deception starts to come in at. This is necessary for plausible deniability. Because you can say, hey, we're not that because we're clearly this. We're not this because we're clearly that. Well, the Bavarian government saw through it, and they decided the best thing to do would be to break this group up. Now, as we know, that's going to be easier said than done, because these people, like I said, were very prominent people, very well respected people throughout the governments in which the countries that they reside in. We're talking about professors and wealthy people, professional people. Now, one of those people is Benjamin Franklin. Now, usually when we hear about Ben Franklin in school and everything like that, we don't hear a whole lot about him being a Freemason, but he absolutely was a Freemason. I consider him the original international man of mystery, okay? Because this guy was an agent, a double agent, even a triple agent, depending on how you want to look at it. But what we know for sure, he was definitely a Freemason. He was a major part of what happened as to getting the American Revolution off ground, getting that thing going. Because basically you could say they were stealing the tax money. Because remember, these guys are over here as representatives of the king. So they're over here to collect tax money, make sure everything is going the way it's supposed to be going. But they're able to go back to the king, to King George, and basically tell them, hey man, these people saying they're not gonna pay. They don't want to pay the taxes. They don't, they don't want to do basically what you tell them to do. In fact, they're talking about having their own money. While at the whole time, they're actually encouraging this very thing from the people, telling the people, why are y'all paying these taxes? This is the source of your strife. This is the source of your struggle. This is why you having a hard time. When we really could just have our own currency, have our own money, and we could really build our own nation. So you're on one side telling the people like you're really for the people of the new nation. On the other end, you're going talking to the king and telling him, no, I'm with you. I'm trying to, whatever you're trying to do, we're trying to make it happen for you. But then all along, you're just doing the job and you're doing the work and you're implementing the vision of your secret society. That's all it is. Like I said, this guy's a triple agent and his plan worked because, England had a lot going on at the time already. And they really needed the colonies to really be on board to get them a real strong footing in the West. Because remember, everybody was taking bits and pieces of the natives and the indigenous people's land over here. So, you had Portugal and you had Spain, right? You had France. So everybody is dipping, their hand in the cookie jar, so to speak. As you know, the war popped off 1775, the American Revolution. And the Declaration of Independence was signed a year later, 1776, right? These people knew that it was really no way that they were gonna lose because what they had done, more so than anything, they created patriotism. This is something that you're gonna have to understand, that all of this stuff is man-made, it's propaganda, and it's something that's created in order to serve a purpose, to fight wars. It's only two kind of people that's gonna fight for you and put their life on the line and kill and die for you, right? You got soldiers, people who get paid. This is their job. They are doing it for financial motivation. And then you got people who are doing it based on a belief system. Now, the belief system could be a religious belief system, as you see up all the way up until today with the Arabs and a lot of the Muslim stuff, the jihad, all of this stuff is created. But we'll get into that probably in another video. I'm gonna touch that too much here. Or patriotism, loyalty to the nation itself. But what people don't understand is that this country was originally created for one purpose. It was different groups of people, but they both had the same purpose, but in opposition, so to speak, to each other. And what we're looking at is the people who won, right? And these secret societies, these groups, they're the ones who won. They had to have a nation. So with so-called America, you now have that nation. You have a beachfront. You have somewhere that you can operate from, a base of operations, okay? And there was still a lot more that had to be done because, remember, this is only 13 colonies. So it was a whole lot of work that's got to be done after that. But now you got something to hold on to, and the people can believe in patriotism. We tell them, look, we're going to give them religious freedom. Let's give them that because we understand what we know in our ideology as to what it is and what it's really about, that we can allow people of multiple different kind of religions and they can still function under what we're trying to do because we have our religion, right, which is Freemasonry, okay? And we have the guy of Freemasonry, which we'll get into, okay? So it is totally okay for that. So you're taking people who, remember, coming from King George and all them, was a Protestant, very much against Catholicism, to now it's, hey, do whatever you want, believe whatever you want. This is the land of opportunity. You still hear that to this day. America, it is a land of opportunity, but it's really geared and set up for a certain group of people. Once they had a stronghold here, they was able to expand around the world because remember, these societies didn't start in America, okay? They already started where they started at. They started in Europe. Eventually, these people will be able to infiltrate multiple governments, multiple nations. They do it through being wealthy, buying their way in through politics, marrying their way in, eventually marrying their way onto the throne. So that whole monarchy thing is not so much of a problem anymore because now you got the same people, right? You got the same people in power doing the same thing. And then they was able to move forward with the layout of America and how it would be. So as you can see, as part of the layout of Washington D.C., it has a lot of Masonic symbolism that they required to be built into it, and this was done within the design framework of the district itself. Right? I want to say city, but not really a city in that sense. It is, but something a little different. If you look at it here, you can see that there's a Masonic temple very close to the White House. And this building here is called the House of the Temple. And this is the home of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. So why would the home of Scottish Rite Freemasonry be placed in proximity to the White House, which would be the symbol, the very symbol of power and government for this new nation? You got to start to put the pieces together. This is not conspiracy theory. These are actual facts. You just need to be able to look at the facts and understand the strategy, what is being put into place. A lot of symbolism in Washington, D.C., Masonic, and you'll see a lot of Egyptian symbolism. But as we get into it, we'll understand that Freemasonry, a huge part of it is perverted, stolen Egyptian, or as we say, Kemetic teachings and symbolism. And they was able to take some of it and combine it with their occult ideology, and they gave you this kind of bastardized thing that is Freemasonry. Okay, but as you can see, the symbols, these are obelisks. When you see that, you know that's an obelisk. Looking at the Washington Monument, the same things you'll see over in Kemet, which was created after the obelisks in Kemet, the Tekanu and the like. I've said a couple of times that you had to understand the God of Freemasonry and what that's really about, because there's an ideology and it's very difficult to kill an ideology and a belief system. When you start to look into this, you'll run into several different things. I'm gonna tell you that, because for one, there's a lot of subsects of Freemasonry. It's not just one thing. It's not, okay, I'm a Mason in this way, all Masons do it this way. To an extent, that's true, but you got a lot of little subsects and offshoots and branches. But you got to understand there's a base of understanding within these societies. Now, as you do some research, you may run across this creature. This is called the Jabulan, best way I could say it, or the great architect of the universe. And you will hear a lot about that. A lot of times when you look at Freemasonry, you'll see the little compass and the little G in the middle. And some people used to say, well, that stands for God. Some people say it stands for geometry, right? Some say it stands for the great architect, right? The architect of the universe. They'll talk about that quite a bit. Now you see that being symbolized here by this being with, has the head of a man, has two creatures on the side of it. It's a three-headed being on some sort of a insect type body. That's really all just symbolism. This is not a real or actual deity or thing per se, but it's representative of some principles, and it's representative of what they believe in. The breakdown of the name here, the Jah would really be Yah, as in Yahweh. The bull is short for Baal, a Baal, the Canaanite quote unquote god, and or really could be any pagan deity. And then you got On, which is going to be short for Osiris, right? Going back to Kemet, right? All of this really is going back to Kemet. Like I said, a lot of that is symbolism, and then you can see what you want to see with it. When I look at it, and I know this is coming from Greek culture, really, truly, because these were the first group to really be able to steal the Kemetic teachings and information. And I go and look at what they did or anything similar. They actually had a three-headed being in Greek mythology, but it was more so a dog, right? Or the hellhound. This thing was called Cerberus, all right? And if you know about that, Cerberus was a companion to Pluto, and they was able to roam in Hades, right? Or what you would say hell, the underworld, right? And this being, while it looks ferocious and all of that, is, you got to understand its purpose. And that's what I say when you talk about symbolism and principles. Its purpose is to trap souls. It traps souls in the underworld, making sure that they're not able to escape. So now when you start to think in those terms, you can kind of start to get the ideas to what's going on here. When you're getting people into these organizations, and they begin to learn the teachings, an aspect of their soul, if you will, is going to begin to be trapped within the paradigm of that. They're gonna be here. They're gonna be in this place, and that's why I say that a lot of that stuff that you get to when you first start doing research, you got to go a little bit deeper. All right, you go a little bit deeper and you'll start to see what's this thing really about. So like if you're looking at a part of the Masonic layout, right? This is the White House. It says here the White House makes up the southernmost tip of the goat head. What is that? Well, the goat head, or the inverted pentagram, is what you see in the 5-pointed star. Inverted pentagram that you can see being laid out over Washington, D.C. is also, you see it above the head of the goat within Satanism. Now, I'm going to show you something. It says here, according to occult satanic doctrine, the upper 4 points of the goat head represent the 4 elements of the world: fire, water, earth, and air. The bottom 5th point represents the spirit of Lucifer. So, like I said before, we're going to get into the actual God of Freemasonry and what's this stuff about. Now it's starting to make sense. You're seeing the 3-headed deity, the 3-headed being. You relate it to the Greek. Okay, we're talking about the hellhounds, trapping souls, locking the souls in Hades, the underworld, hell, Lucifer. So something that'll kind of jump out to you for all of the occult and satanic elements to Freemasonry, what's the connection with the Catholic Church? Because like we've gone over the symbolism through the Holy Roman Empire, you've had people that were members of the church, being also a member of these, of these societies. What is the connection with that? What's that whole thing about? When you start thinking about the Pope, and I think about all of the scandals and all of the different things that happen, throughout the Catholic Church, and you see them tied to so much wickedness. To me, the picture becomes, pretty clear. And, there's even been versions of the Bible that was created or whatever that basically named the Pope as the Antichrist. You know what I'm saying? And it's always this conflict. It's what I was telling you about King George being a Protestant, protesting Catholicism. A lot of subsects of it's really all Catholicism, really. I mean, you get in the Bible from Rome, but if you want to say Christianity or whatever, different sects, a lot of them have an issue with Catholicism for that, for that reason, because of a lot of the teachings in it. But when you start to really look at it, you understand what they're teaching. It's a lot of Mary worship more so, as to what's actually going on behind the scenes. Then you got everything with the kids, the scandal, the pedophile rings throughout Catholicism, and them covering it up. It's a lot of weird stuff going on over there with that, right? But as you start to dig, the picture becomes clear for you. It's a huge connection between the Masons and the Bible. Like I was saying with the other versions that named the Pope the Antichrist, there was over 16 versions of the Bible just prior to the King James. And for those of you who actually read the book, you'll know Revelations 22, 18, and 19, basically telling you you can't do that. You can't change nothing, don't add nothing, don't take nothing away. I mean, it's basically like voiding the warranty. Certain things you get in purchase, you say, hey, don't tamper with it, don't do anything, because after that, I can't say what this is no more, right? It's kind of like that. We should not, or they should not have been changing anything. If the book is the truth, you shouldn't. There's nothing you could add to it, And if it's the truth, there's nothing you should be taking away from it. So we just got to start to really understand these are people in power. These are governments, right? These are people who have the leverage to do whatever they want. And that's exactly what they do. As I said about King James, before King James put out his version of the Bible, the literature he worked on before that, the book he put out before that, 1599, he had a book called Demonology. All right. So your King James Bible, the guy who gave you that, before that, he had a book called Demonology. And you can take a look at it, and it's kind of funny that on the cover here, it'll say written by the high and mighty prince, and it's supposed to say James. It got the I right there because there was no J. You know what I'm saying? There was no J at this time. So when you just think about it, how it's taught to you, there's, salvation in the name of Jesus and all about Jesus in the name, but there wasn't even a J. I'm not really finna go way deep into the Bible on this. I just want to show you the connection between the secret societies, the Freemasons, and this book, and then the entire religion and everything else that goes with it, because it's all tied in with government. It's just no way around it. Now, a lot of people say King James wrote the Bible. Some biblical scholars will kind of jump on there and say, well, that's not accurate, right? In a sense, I guess you could say they're both right, but he revised it, he authorized it, right? It was his achievement, could kind of say during his term. It's something that he put together. But as far as actually, going into the text and the verses, he had help. He had help. And one of the people who was a major contributor for him, if not really the primary contributor, was a guy by the name of Francis Bacon. Okay, now Francis Bacon is somebody that you really need to know about and that you really need to do your research on. All right. Now this guy, first of all, this guy's a Freemason. I'm talking a master Mason. So some would say he's the father of Rosicrucianism or the Rosy Cross. I would say he's at least I would say the founder of the modern, version of it. It was nothing. Nobody put a bigger stamp on it than he did. We'll say it that way. But what you need to know about him, he was the illegitimate son of Queen Elizabeth. Okay, and officially this guy was credited with giving us the scientific theory, which is funny because if you use the scientific theory, you can kind of start to decode what these people were doing and what they was able to accomplish. And it said that he had the manuscripts for over a year. Now, understand, this ain't just a regular guy. This dude's a master coder. Freemasonry is all about symbolism codes anyway, and this guy was the best of the best, right? So when people talk about his codes in the Bible and they start showing and revealing certain things, you got to understand how this stuff got put in there in the first place and who put this stuff in there. Many people say he was quite possibly the actual Shakespeare, the playwright Shakespeare. They say either he was very close to Shakespeare or he was Shakespeare or he ghost wrote for Shakespeare, so to speak. It's a lot of information on that you can kind of dig into, but you definitely want to understand this guy and understand that he was huge in pushing the agenda forward, not only through the Bible, but going into America, because you got to look at it. Remember, Ben Franklin, these guys were Freemasons. This would have been somebody who they held in very high esteem and very high regard. You know what I'm saying? And they knew that he was basically on code, for lack of a better word. So they know he was on code and he had the plan. You know what I'm saying? So you follow what he's doing, stick to it, and then this thing gonna work. And to this day, it has worked. But for the most part, it has worked. Like I said, they say he's the father of it. There's another guy by the name of Christian Rosencreutz who is also credited with being the father of it, even prior to that, a little older. It could be issues around, the birth, his birthday, his death date, different things like that, because the numbers usually are all symbolic. It's a lot of stuff tied into it. So it's this stuff is a ton of disinformation. You just got to be able to read through the lines and understand the truth that's in there, and understand that what you actually seeing that is fact. And you could be able to tie that with actual world history. But what we know is the Rosicrucian order is a very old order. It's been around for centuries. Remember, Freemasonry itself supposedly been found out and banned a couple of times, and this was 400 years later, right? So what had been going on prior to that, right? And what was the name of these things prior to that? So, names change, locations change as to where they're operating from, and what you're experiencing. And people think that they're getting rid of it, but you're not really getting rid of it, because if you don't understand the expansive nature of it, how big it really is and how many people are involved, it's going to be hard to just get rid of it by isolating one group in one city. Like I was saying about Bacon, possibly being Shakespeare, but because like I said, he was a master coder, and his code even within Shakespeare, even within his name, that's really talking about the shaker of the spear that comes from Pallas Athena, who was the shaker of the spear, which is a ray of light, right? A ray of light of wisdom, and she would shake the spear of wisdom at the dragon, right? At the dragon of ignorance. So in the occult, that's what you get, when you start talking about the light bringer, the light bearer, and y'all know throughout in the Bible and stuff, they talk about Lucifer, the light bringer, the light bearer. The symbolism that you find, even with Athena, i.e. Minerva, we're talking about the same thing. You still see that today, and this is something I kind of wanted to touch on, a little sidebar here, because I don't understand sometimes, especially with black people, how we latch on and put our energy into things that we don't fully understand. It might come from a deep-seated place of, wanting to reconnect with something or to connect with something or be a part of something when you a lot of that has been stripped from you and been blinded from you. But we're gonna have to wake up. When you look at some of these Greek sororities and fraternities, these Divine Nine, right? These Black Greeks, so-called, which is just ridiculous. Now I do understand the original Greeks would have been black, talking about like the Minoans. But when we're talking about Greek fraternities and Greek culture, we're talking about Europeans or Aryans. Okay, that's who this is. If you look at fraternities such as, or sororities, and you look at sororities such as the Deltas, right? If you look at their crest or their shield at the top, that is Minerva. That is Athena at the top of their shield right there. All right. So these women, who many of them will walk around and proclaim themselves to be, for black people, pro-black or whatever, when you're paying homage and giving honor to the people who destroyed black culture, destroyed entire civilizations of black people. They created all kind of havoc throughout our psychology and our spirituality, and it's still affecting us to this day. But you would honor them. That's to me disrespectful, to your ancestors. And then on the flip side, if you claim yourself to be a Christian, how could you give praise and honor to a deity outside of Christianity? Right? This is not something that you would be allowed to do. And to be more specific, when we're talking about Athena, she's the daughter of Zeus. Okay? So you can see here, there's Zeus with his boy lover, Gatamine, or whatever his name was. He was a little boy that I think Zeus saw, and he couldn't resist him, so he turned himself into some kind of bird or something, swooped down, grabbed him, took him up on Mount Olympus, and began his pedophile assault on the young boy. Well, this woman, Athena, would be the daughter of Zeus, okay? And we know that Zeus is the son of Kronos, all right? So who is Kronos? We got to understand, we're talking Greek mythology, and then you have Roman mythology that have their counterparts. The counterpart for Kronos, who you can see him here, he's actually eating the child. He's also known as the Reaper, the Grim Reaper. That's where they get a lot of that from Kronos. As you can see, Zeus is molesting the little boy. Kronos is just going to go ahead and kill him and eat him. Kronos is Saturn, okay? So Kronos is the Roman Saturn. So now we understand, for those who get into the research, you understand Saturn is Satan. So what are we saying here? So now we're looking at, okay, basically we're looking at the daughter of Zeus, granddaughter of Satan. And you are honoring this entity, you're honoring this deity, and throughout ritualistic, because mind you, this is not just people going in signing a piece of paper saying, hey, I want to be a part of an organization. Okay, here's you pay your dues and now you're a part. No, they go through a ritual process, right? You go through these rituals because it's a religious organization, right? This is what it's about. All right. This is manipulation of black spirituality at its highest level. And people act like they don't understand. Well, some people, but there are people who have known about it and people who have talked about it. If you look here, you see woman publicly denounces Delta sorority over contradictions with Christian faith. Backlash ensues. Another article, denouncing Delta. Christian woman quits Black Greek sorority because it's a cult. Another one, you won't believe why this Christian woman quit her Black Greek sorority, right? I mean, I believe, you know what I'm saying? I understand exactly why she would have quit. If she in any way is trying to be serious, about being a Christian, there's no way that you could be a Christian and be a part of these organizations, in faith, in good faith, as they would say. But even more so, that my angle is just, it's very unfortunate that, our sisters and brothers as well are doing this. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's a lack of understanding, a lack of knowledge. But I know that there's some people at the top who do know all of this. They fully understand. And they have, I think the common phrase they like to say, they sell their soul, right? These people are okay with it. You know what I'm saying? They're okay with it. You need to ask yourself, are you okay with it? And I'm not just picking on the Deltas, the guys do it too. Matter of fact, let's take a look at the Kappas, right? Kappa Alpha Psi. Now, this is a part out of the Kappa ritual book. Now, as you look here, I'm gonna read a little bit out of this. And as you see on the screen, it looks a little crazy. This is actually stuff I pulled off of my phone from text messages that I had sent to a family member a couple of years ago, actually, who was in first year in college and was seriously considering, joining these fraternities, and they were looking at being a Kappa. So that's why I just got this information. So you're looking at what I really send to people in everyday life. Like, this is real life. You know what I'm saying? I take this stuff seriously, and I know what it is, and a lot of people know what it is, but enough of us don't know. And I think that's how we keep getting caught up. But let's go ahead and read a little bit. Now, this is a part where I guess you're getting ready to cross over. They got names for it. I want you to listen to a key part here. It says, this is what the pledge is supposed to say, right? So they kneel. Okay, so then they kneel at the sacred altar of Kappa Alpha Psi and repeat the following oath or whatever. And in the pledge, he kneels, and this is what he says. He says, I, and then he states his name or whatever. And it's in the presence of Almighty God. Okay, what God? First question, what God? Which God? Because this is a Masonic organization, hands down. There's no way this isn't Freemasonry. So we already are establishing what the God of Freemasonry is. So y'all need to stop playing, okay? But let's continue. So it says, in the presence of Almighty God and the members of Kappa Alpha Psi here assembled, and at the sacred Delphic shrine, and I do solemnly swear that he forever is gonna keep the secrets. Basically, I'm not gonna read all that. So what jumps out to me is the sacred Delphic shrine, right? What's a sacred Delphic shrine? Well, let's take a look. It says Delphi was an important ancient Greek religious sanctuary. It was sacred to the god Apollo. Okay, so a Delphic shrine is an ancient Greek religious, because it's a religion. Freemasonry is a religion. It's an ancient Greek religious sanctuary sacred to the god Apollo. Who is Apollo? Apollo is the son of Zeus. So if Apollo is the son of Zeus, then we understand he's the grandson of Kronos. So if Athena is the granddaughter to Kronos, i.e. Saturn, i.e. Satan, then Apollo is the grandson to Kronos, i.e. Saturn, i.e. Satan. So we're still talking about the same thing. They're just giving you different roads to lead you back to what this is all about. You can believe it. You don't have to believe it. I mean, it's right here in front of you. But you can do the research. You can look this stuff up. This ain't, like I said, I'm just pointing it out, and I'm gonna let people make their own individual decisions. But you need to really understand who you're dealing with. And I know it's hard because a lot of people just want to be cool. They want to fit in. They want to get girls. They want to get a job when they get out of college. People are supposed to look out for each other and do little stuff for each other. We got to start to become a little more disciplined and look a little deeper and understand what we're doing. Understand what we're doing with symbology. What is this? These are the omegas. These are the so-called Q dolls, omegas, right? I mean, what is this? What is this? If my memory serves, the omegas are supposed to be under quote unquote Jehudi, which is Thoth, which represents wisdom. So if you have knowledge and you have wisdom, it would seem like that you would have the knowledge and wisdom to understand that the power of symbology, the power of what you're doing, the power of what you're representing when you are putting yourself in that position and depicting yourself in that way, because that's affecting you on a spiritual level as well as a subconscious level. This is like little league stuff. You know what I'm saying? This is little league stuff. When they get past the colleges, when they or get past these levels of the fraternities, is when you kind of get into the larger Freemasonic organizations such as Freemasonry, Eastern Stars, and the like. Matter of fact, Eastern Star, let me take a look at that. So Eastern Stars is something that's set up for women, right? It's supposed to be like a female branch of Freemasonry, female counterpart to Freemasonry, because actually women are not allowed in real Freemasonry, neither are black people. So go figure that, right? But they'll come with the whole Prince Hall charter and all that. But when you get into it, you understand clearly. Black people was never supposed to be a part of it because they stealing everything from you and hiding it from you. Why would they let you in? That's insane. But you always got infighting within any type of organization where people got a different way of trying to achieve the same goal. but it should not be no black Freemasons, and it shouldn't be any women. So now they give you the Eastern Star, and as you see on the back wall back there, you see that 5-pointed inverted pentagram. You see it. We already talked about what it is and what it represents throughout this cult or throughout this society. So you know what that is. It's us just looking to belong or looking to be a part of something. But if y'all are brothers and sisters in Masonry, then this is your family. This is your family. These are Eastern Stars. That's that same inverted 5-pointed pentagram on the back wall. The only difference is one picture is melanated and one picture isn't. Right? If you following the tenets of these the rituals and the oaths that they take, then these people will have more of an affiliation with each other than with you. So if I know a lot of people don't like to hear this kind of stuff, and they get a little offended, or hey, look, I got family members that's in this and in that. But you got to understand, they took an oath that says these are their brothers and sisters. So it's on you. It's on you. You can believe what you want to believe. I choose to just look at research and use common sense. That's all I do. I look at research and see where it takes me, and I apply common sense to it. But that's on y'all. But like I said, I want to go a little bit deeper because a lot of people they're gonna argue and have cognitive dissonance and all this stuff about is what I'm saying accurate when I talk about fraternities. Let's look at the definition of fraternity. Okay, it says fraternity, a noun. You got multiple definitions. Number one, number two. We're on the first definition. Go down to the bottom of the first definition of fraternity. What does it say? It says a religious or Masonic society or guild. A religious or Masonic society or guild, that's a fraternity. So fraternities are a part of Freemasonry. Freemasonry is a religion. And we've already shown you who the God of Freemasonry is. So you can sit here and do this however you want to do it, play with it, drag it out. You don't have to ask me, okay? Ask this guy, Anton LaVey. Go ask him. A renowned Satanist. Go ask him. I'm not even going into him on this. Just understand that the information is out there and it's out there for you. How do we get caught up in this? A huge part of the blame, I say, go to this guy, Henry Minton, the founder of Sigma Pi Phi, which is commonly known as the Boule, the Black Boule, right? Which is I believe the advisors to the king or the gatekeepers to the king or something like that. This guy founded the Black Boule in 1904, and it said he wanted to pattern his organization after the white Masonic organization known as Skull and Bones, right? Because at that time, you couldn't have a black person in Skull and Bones. I'm not sure if you can now, to be honest, but you might have one or two now slipping in. I don't know, but you definitely weren't gonna have that then. These people are locked in, and we're gonna go into Skull and Bones a lot more here coming up. I've shown you how these people have stolen and taken everything from black people, and how they affected us psychologically and affected us spiritually. And now here's the takeover. You're looking at the takeover. It doesn't happen without the people. You need people to fight wars, and there's a war against black people. Okay, there's a global war against black people, and you need people to fight that war. You need black people to fight that war. You need black people to help destroy black people, and this is one of the people who participated in that. It's a lot of information out there on that. I recommend the brother, the ancestor now, Steve Coakley. Go check out Steve Coakley. It's a lot of information that he got online, old videos and stuff like that, way long time ago. But it's books. There's a lot of stuff out there. Y'all just got to get into it. It's somewhat complex, but it's very simple. It's just a lot of layers to it, and it's just almost like I want to say like a spider web, or almost like a virus or something, a fungus that just grows and it just keeps getting stronger and bigger, and you're trying to kill it, but you're not really pulling up the root. You understand what I'm saying? You're not getting the whole thing because people are not understanding the whole thing. So we got to go a little deeper. Like I said, we've talked a lot about the ideology. Let's go into the real infiltration. All right. So when we want to start talking about the actual infiltration and how they was able to really latch on to power in America, you can't do that without talking about the banking system. So we're going to talk about the banks, the central banks, fractional reserve banking, and all of that, and how this stuff was set up. Now, what you got to understand is money used to be in gold, right? And they had gold banks, which would basically give out receipts. The way that kind of works is, gold is heavy. You're not gonna carry a bunch of gold around with you. So you got, just say $100 worth of gold. You just basically take it to a bank, and they give you a little ticket that says, this guy's got $100 worth of gold, and you could trade and exchange off of that. You could trade and exchange off of that. You could take that to somebody and say, hey, I want to buy that horse. He'd be like, all right, it's $100 worth of gold. Well, here go this little ticket. You just take that to the bank, you get the gold. And that's kind of how that thing got jumping, right? Now, fractional reserve banking is basically when they loaning out something, but they don't have the full resources there to cover what they loaning out. They only have a fraction of it. So let's say it's like 20%. Let's say they only have to have 20%. So for every $100 they loan out, they only got to have 20, right? Well, what this does is it puts money into a country, but it's not really real money. It's really more so representative of a debt. It's some inherent flaws in that system, because if everybody comes to take all their money out of the bank at one time, it's going to be a problem because the money's not actually there, right? What you have is just a debt instrument. They want to go ahead and force the central bank into America. It's going to give them all the leverage, because what you're doing is now the country is having to borrow money from the central bank in order to have money in circulation, right? So they're basically putting the money in circulation within the country, but they're charging them interest. Now, if you just use a little common sense, how can you charge me interest on money that don't exist? That's like if you got a kid and you give your kid an allowance, right? That's, say you give them $10 a week. All right, I'm gonna give you $10. But if you say, you know what, I'm gonna give you $10 with interest, 10% interest. So you're gonna have to pay me this money back. So you can use it, but eventually you're gonna have to pay it back, and you're not gonna just pay me the $10. You're gonna pay me $11, right? Because I hit you with interest on it. Well, how can that kid pay you back in theory in this vacuum, right? If this is the only money in existence, you're not gonna be able to pay that money back. So that creates debt. And what it does is it puts a country in debt. When we start talking about millions and hundreds of millions and billions and trillions, this is how these countries get completely swallowed up by these banks. This is basically the hustle. This is basically the plan, what they wanted to do. You got to understand that Alexander Hamilton and Robert Morris, they're the ones who came in 1781 and was able to put the first central bank into play. Matter of fact, a big reason why that there ended up being a civil war is because, there was an issue with these banks. They was putting pressure on Lincoln. Lincoln wanted the South to pay more in the taxes so that they could pay some of that money back to those banks who was in his ear and in his pocket. You know what I'm saying? And that was a big part. There was a lot of stuff that led to that war. We'll probably go into that a little more later. But yeah, it was really all just behind the bankers. So 1781, Hamilton and Morris came together and got us the Bank of North America. And automatically by doing that, like I told you how it operates, by them doing that, this caused the value of the dollar to just drop, right? It caused the thing to drop. When you look at the first Bank of the United States, okay, in Philadelphia, 1790, if you look at it, Thomas Jefferson was against that. He was against it from the beginning because he understood the system. He could see the game. I really, we got to take into consideration that people at this time, they didn't have Google, and they didn't have the ability to pull up documents and do a lot of different research. Not videos that you really had to be paying attention. Most of the information that's coming out is what news, print, and you just had to be privy to it, right? But you just got to understand that the Rothschilds were behind this bank, and what happened was they actually threatened that, look, if James Madison, if he didn't get the charter put back in place, then America would end up being in war. You can kind of opt out, right? And basically that's all they're saying. Look, you can't opt out. You need to renew our charter. Or if not, you're going to find yourself in a war. America called a bluff, and you ended up with England attacking America, and you had the War of 1812. Because what these banks do, they already are being established in other countries all over the world already, starting off in Europe. So they're able to pit nations against each other and play these nations against each other. And that's what they've done from the beginning. And that's what they continue to do till this day. So you end up having that war. And shortly thereafter, by 1816, there was a second Bank of the United States that was put together, all right, by the Rothschilds. Now, here's the thing. Andrew Jackson took over. And after about 12 years, right, of him working, he was trying to just clean out everybody who was affiliated with these people who was in their pockets on their payroll. He was getting rid of them, but eventually they still end up, putting together and getting them a little a charter. But this time the charter's gonna be for 20 years. So they put that together, but Jackson was like, no. So he just vetoed it. He was like, nah, we're not doing it. Right? I already know where this is going. Remember, the other nations already have banned these groups. They've tried to kick them out, get rid of them. But now it's not just so them meeting in secret. Now it's them actually implementing the strategy. Again, is this conspiracy or is this strategy? So he vetoed it. All right. So they threatened him. They was like, look, if you don't get this thing back in, you're going to go through a depression. You're going to go through a Great Depression, because remember, this is who controlling the money. This is who you getting your money from. So, Jackson was like, fuck it, basically. In 1834, he didn't renew the charter, all right? And that actually got America out of debt. Jackson understood what was going on, what these people was about, as many other leaders of other nations had run across in time. This is not isolated. I've shown you what they were saying in England. I've shown you what they were saying in Germany. I'm showing you what Jackson said about it. Let's talk about another so-called great American, John Quincy Adams. What did he have to say about it? Listen, this is John Quincy Adams' quote. Masonry ought forever to be abolished. It is wrong, essentially wrong, a seed of evil which can never produce any good. That's John Q. Adams talking about Freemasonry. Like I said, this is not a secret, man. People been knew about this. It's people that's been trying to stop it. But like I said, they not pulling up the roots. They're not pulling up the roots.